exists today. Sometimes strange things happen deep in the mysterious southern countryside in Spring Creek, Florida. The local people know about it. The science program at the university was aware of it. And I knew that something or someone was responsible for the gruesome and horrible homicides and student deaths at the Cherokee Sink this year. We were all part of an expedition from the university in search of fossils and prehistoric life forms at the bottom of the freshwater spring. We didn't know what was about to happen.
Sitting inside of Tallahassee Oakland Cemetery is a unique architectural monument. There is no dominant style, yet it combines the beauty of many early architectural masters. Above the door, in letters 6 inches high, is the name Phillips. No first or middle name is provided, no date of birth or death. Not one descriptive or commemorative word to explain to the visitor who Phillips was. A few blocks away now sits a nearly empty lot, but as late as the 1970s stood one of Tallahassee's most unusual and little-known monuments, a giant clock tower, unique in itself, but even more interesting in that it was part of a private residence rather than a public facility. Few people realize that they are both connected to Tallahassee's rail station by a singular ghost who binds them all together in perfect time. The mausoleum was designed by its current resident, Calvin C. Phillips, a man who was obsessed with time. The time was the early 1900s. Phillips had just retired from a successful career as an architect in Pennsylvania. For reasons unknown, he had become estranged from his wife and daughters, who resided in New York. A man who had frequented Europe and lived in the largest U.S. cities oddly chose to live out the last years of his life alone in the sleepy southern town of Tallahassee just after the turn of the century. Here, mostly with his own labor, he built and moved into a small but architecturally beautiful house with an attached high brick clock tower, with a clock face at the top of about 3 feet in diameter. He imported from abroad wooden clock parts, which were said to keep perfect time with the soft clucking sound he could hear from his living quarters. In those days, observing the time was an important part of a man's living routine. Still a very agrarian society, there was no central repository of timekeeping as there is today. Congress was still in the process of establishing exact time zones, so it was the railroads that the public relied most on for the official time. For this reason, it appears Phillips built his house and clock tower within view of the rail station. No one recalls ever seeing Phillips in a bank, post office, church, school, or other public place where groups of people normally would gather. Only a few years after the completion of his home and clock tower, Phillips was believed to have been quite elderly in years, and he began working on his mausoleum. It is believed that much like his home, he did most of the work and construction himself, keeping a little cot inside to nap or rest when he would grow hot or tired. After finishing his mausoleum, Phillips then built his own coffin from local cherry wood. It was as carefully finished as a piece of fine furniture. He placed it in the mausoleum alongside his resting cot. Not long after the completion of his coffin, Mr. Phillips called upon Mr. Cully, the local undertaker, to meet him at the mausoleum, where he showed him exactly how to put his body in the casket, close and seal it, and then seal the mausoleum entrance from the outside. No arrangements for any funeral services were made. In the first days of November 1919, Phillips made his last visit to see his one friend, Senator Hodges. He gave him a key to the marble door of the mausoleum, explained that his casket was inside, and that he would be found either there or at his clock house when he died, which likely would be very soon. On the morning of November 19th, 1919, a casual visitor noticed that the mausoleum door was ajar. Many believe that evening before, Phillips had planned it just this way. He sat on his cot inside with his waiting casket beside him, listening for a train from the east. As many have reported over the years, on any given night, you may walk along All Saints Street and still hear the gentle plucking of the ghostly tower, or pass an elderly gentleman who might just pause and ask you, "Pardon, sir, do you have the time?"